Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to awesome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Miranda. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's great to be able to sit down with you.
Awesome. So before we dig into the topic, let's just give people a 2-minute overview, where you're based, what's the day job, what's the business, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it to 2 minutes. So I'm based in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I run a business called the Mindful Canine. I've had it for 5 years. Started out as on the boots on the ground doing dog behavior work. Now I have an online business that's growing, and I offer virtual programs based upon wellness for humans and dogs. So that's my whole thing. Can we learn, grow, and heal together? So I integrate a lot of innovative things like mindfulness, like some somatic work. A lot of my focus is building a lot of self-awareness around our patterns, how we are with our dogs, and the relationship with them is a mirror for how we are in our other relationships. So my goal is that people become empowered to really take action to support themselves so that they have a better life with their dogs, and they actually can then start to think of how they want to contribute and make the world a better place for people and for animals.
Couldn't love this more. That's, when I first stumbled across you and I was like, oh, I want her for this. So I'm curious. So you started out with like dog behavior, and I think, well, especially when I think back of like when I first found my first dog. So the idea is like, oh, people would go to a dog behaviorist, dog trainer can you help me fix my dog? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you come across how did you come to the insight of, well, actually the bigger lever is on the other end, and how do you help your clients understand that bit?
Yeah, so I love that question, and my journey is I have a background in animal health, so I started in as a vet tech, worked in pretty much every aspect of the animal industry, and then I was always interested in dog behavior. It was always a big theme ever since I was a child, really. Everything dogs, how do they work, all about them. So I really dove deep into that space. And when I quit being a vet tech, that's when I started my business. And the shift really happened for me when I started my own personal healing journey, which was 7 years ago when my son was born. And I recognized that there had been a lot of things that I hadn't looked at in my own personal life. There had been trauma that I hadn't acknowledged. It came out as emotional reactivity, which is the piece that I support people in recognizing. If you are emotionally reactive to your dog, to their behavior, there's an unhealed part of you that is asking to be seen. And so it's not the dog's fault, and it's not your fault. Very likely both of you have trauma, and so it's looking at uncovering how can we support your dog in feeling better, feeling safer, and how can we support you in letting go of a lot of layers of guilt and shame and self-judgment, and really healing so that you can start to see kind of the trueness and the realness of who you are, which is how I see that our dogs like really see us as. But I think in order for us to be able to really, as animal people, live full and vibrant lives, we have to start to peel back those layers of conditioning so that we accept ourselves for who we are, just like our dogs accept us for who we are unconditionally. Because in order to make a difference in the world, in order to be able to actually shift things in a big way, you have to be grounded in your own sense of self. And that's the only way that you're going to build connections and relationships. So in my journey, that's the thing that's made the biggest difference. I went from being a burned out, like just living to survive animal professional essentially, to now, I can empower people, both pros and just guardians, to live their best life. That your dogs want you to live your best life. Stop holding yourself back from that. And a lot of that is just uncovering the awareness that everything is connected. And so when we're focused 100% on our dog's behavior, it's like you're holding a mirror, like you're holding a picture too close to your face. So in order to be able to, my goal is to just, let's see if we can pull the picture back so you can see that everything is really connected. So anything you do to support yourself directly supports your dog in their healing.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me. It reminds me of there's a book by Kevin Behan, Your Dog is Your Mirror. And there is actually, he basically, the piece I remember most was where he says, well, look at your dog and pick up on the things you most love about your dog and the stuff that drives you nuts, right? They're the two areas where you kind of really have to look at yourself and see how that relates. And I think the moment you start looking through that lens, oh boy, the more you look at the book, the more you see.
It's so interesting because you're the second person who's mentioned this book. I have never read this book. It's like, it's all the things that I kind of discovered. Well, not organically. There's definitely influences there, but I think there is so much truth to that, and it's just in that willingness to look at and explore. I always say, like, animals and children are our best teacher. There's a huge movement I have a son as well, so I follow a lot of the conscious parenting movement. There's a huge shift in that space, for empowerment for moms to start to look at themselves and healing themselves so that they can heal their child. And I can see that is possible in the dog industry, and we can start to treat animals with, as sentient beings with respect, that we honor them. Even more than that, like that we can honor and appreciate that they have a higher level of understanding a lot of times than we give them credit for. And so it's about time we stopped trying to dominate and control them and actually started to consciously connect with them and understand them on a deeper level.
Yeah, I just couldn't. I mean, this is the way you just summed it up. It's like, yeah, this is why I started this project. Like, this is what I meant with that.
Yeah.
It's, because it drives me crazy when people like, oh, sit. And, it's like as if it's like a little toy that you can just like, when I have the little key at the end, kind of does, you say something and the little thing does. Like, dogs are so much more.
Yeah.
And if you take the time to actually look closer, yeah, well, there's a lot we can learn from them. I always say I want to be like when dogs when I grow up, right? Like, just kind of be more dog. They have so much to give, and to just respect them for what they are and for how they are the same and how they're different.
Absolutely. And this is the piece where I take it with people a layer deeper and go, because whenever we have a trigger, it's an unhealed part of ourselves. So when I notice I'm triggered, I start to ask myself, because most of our wounds are learned in childhood. I start to ask myself, okay, what part of this is an unmet need for me? Like, where, and so yeah, for me as well, people trying to micromanage their dogs or trying to control with force, huge trigger. So it's like, in me, where is that unhealed part? Where was I controlled or subjected to things that were unfair that I haven't processed and worked through?
That's really what you just said is really interesting, because I'm like, well, I get really triggered by, when somebody tries to sort of forcefully control or yell at a dog, like I get super triggered by that. So, it might be something to have a closer look at there. That's really interesting. Are there particular sort of patterns that show up a lot for your clients, for example?
Yeah, I mean, where I tend to support is people that are a lot like me. So people that have huge hearts, give to everybody, have a challenge receiving, and have a challenge using their voice, speaking up for themselves, taking action on the things that are important to them. Um, and so, yeah, where I see it is there's an opportunity here where they can both give their dog what they need, give themselves what they need. And a lot of times too, it's developing a voice through speaking for the dog initially. Because especially when there's a particular challenge, there's an awareness that's being built around what the dog needs and why the dog is the way they are, and then we can move into actually that compassion rather than judgment for that they're the way they are, and labels. Like essentially, if I can coach them through that till the point that they get to they're empowered to advocate, that they understand their dog at the point where they're like, no, he's not reactive or aggressive, he's fearful and traumatized, and you know I can get them to that place where they're advocating for their dog. The bridge there is then I want to bring them into it as well, and in that, building that awareness that their dog has their own experience, that their dog has a very distinct emotional world. I want to then bring that and see if they're willing to offer that same level of care, compassion, and understanding that their reactivity or their challenges are often repressed wounds. They're often things and patterns that have been just caused by pain. So it's a lot easier to extend compassion to another being, whether that be an animal, whether that be someone we love, than it is to ourselves. So it's turning that around full circle and seeing if we can create some awareness that they're doing the best they can, and start to move towards that level of personal acceptance and forgiveness.
That's powerful, because there is really, so many entry points, and everywhere you make a change, it impacts yourself, your dogs, people around you. So it's just that, that beautiful wholeness that I think is really worthwhile having a closer look at, and not just to say, well, there's the dog that needs to do things, and so it's not that separate. It's all, I think the magic really shows when we actually look at it from this more holistic kind of place. It's wonderful. So where can people go and find out more about you? Where can they go connect with you, find out about your work?
Yeah, beautiful. So right now my website is mindfulcanine.ca. We will be creating a new one that's just my name, so I can branch out to all of my projects, but that's the one for right now. I also run a group on Facebook. That's the real space. If you want to deeper dive into this, you want to connect with people who think this way. I'm really creating a movement in the community there. And so in there, I do weekly lives. I do Q&As. I also run a monthly masterclass, and that is geared all around emotional healing for you and your dog. So the concept that you can heal synergistically from wounding, from trauma, and build a more peaceful, calm, present existence. Because I think that at the base of it, that's what we all really want. We want to be seen. Your dog wants to be seen. You want to be seen and acknowledged for who you really are. And that's the first step, is allowing yourself to be witnessed, seen, supported. And then from there, that level of acceptance and awareness starts to grow.
So obviously, if you're listening on the podcast, the link's on the show notes. And if you're on the newsletter, obviously it's right below this video. So go connect with Miranda. You won't regret it, I promise. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was an honor to be here.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, @soultouchedbydogs.com.